Welcome, Buff fans. It's time for a game preview, and Adam, we got Week 7 coming up for the Buffs, and we're starting the second half of the season, and the first half didn't go like they thought, but here we are, second half.
Yeah, you got to try to you got to find a way to win this football game because you got a bye week coming up after that, and it's going to be really tough, I think, to keep this locker room intact if you keep losing football games and go to 0-4 in conference. And so, yeah, backs are firmly against the wall at this point, and we'll get into our predictions later. My gut kind of tells me that, and they're primed for this. Colorado's primed for a pretty solid 60-minute performance. Um, will it happen? I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking the same thing, and so we'll see what our predictions say. But Iowa State's a team also for a different reason. I mean, their backs are a little bit against the wall as well. I mean, this is a team that has playoff aspirations and Big 12 title aspirations, and they're coming off of a kind of a stinker of a performance last week at Cincinnati, and they can't afford a second loss. I mean, maybe two losses can get you into the Big 12 title game this year, but I know they're thinking they can't afford that second loss, right? And so they're going to want to really bounce back after really a not good performance at Cincinnati last week.
Yeah, definitely going to be an angry team coming out to Boulder. I don't think they're going to be as angry as the Buffs, though.
Yeah.
I don't think that's any type of advantage
Mhm.
over CU, but it's just a really solid football program.
Yeah.
They've aside from one year, what was that, like 4 years ago? They've gone to a bowl game every year under Matt Campbell. He's just had that program being pretty consistent year in and year out, and they've got a savvy quarterback, a veteran quarterback, and Rocco Becht that frankly, Colorado has not done well against savvy quarterbacks so far
Mhm.
this season. And he's not a guy that they're going to call design runs for, but when things break down, Rock Becht does a really good job of using his legs to get first downs. And so that could be a tough matchup in this one, but it's also not a juggernaut, Iowa State. I mean, what are they? They're seventh in defensive efficiency in the Big 12. They're eighth in offensive efficiency, 13th in the conference in sacks. Their run offense and run defense are middle of the pack compared to other Big 12 programs. So, savvy quarterback, well coached team. Uh, it's not a group that has a bunch of All Americans that is going to keep coordinators up at night.
Yeah, they're certainly one that can come in here and win, but you're right. They're not one that um, you should be scared of. I mean, this is not like when the Buffs go out to Autzen Stadium and play at Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Or a USC all those years they would play them. This is a team you can beat, and that's no disrespect to Iowa State. I think they're good, and they got. You have to respect a team coached by Matt Campbell because he's been so good, and you have to respect Rocco Becht. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, certainly one of the best in the Big 12, and he's a gamer, man. I mean, I don't know if you watched last week's game at all, but I mean, because the bus played a little bit late out at TCU, I actually sat in the hotel room and watched almost all that Cincinnati game, and they were down big, and it was Rocco Becht that got him back in that game, and so he's a gamer. He's not going to be intimidated by anything that they see or that he sees at Folsom Field this week.
Yeah. When I did a Q&A with our Iowa State guy, I said what happened 3, 4 years ago and what happened to get them back to playing winning football. And he said, Rocco Becht. That is the
Yeah.
reason. He's been 23 wins as a starting quarterback there. He has not gotten hurt. He started every game since he became their full-time starter. So just a picture of consistency. He's what Colorado is searching at that position.
Yes. Yeah. I think he's probably what Colorado thought they got in that position this year, but they don't have. But look, the Buffs have a veteran. They have a veteran quarterback with a lot of wins under his belt too, and I think this is a big game for Kaden Salter to prove himself again. I mean, it feels like there's been 3 or 4 times already this year. It's like, all right, Kaden, you got to prove yourself, and I think this is another one of those where you're going up against a veteran quarterback like himself, and you got to protect the home field. I asked Coach Prime about that this week, and he goes, everybody wants to do that, and you got to protect that home field. And he took that opportunity to say, "This is Peggy's house, and we can't lose in front of Peggy. We don't like losing in front of Peggy." So I think this is a challenging game. This is a challenge game for Caden Salter.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on him because
Hmm.
we saw. in that Delaware game. There were a few people booing him in that late in that football game, and
Yeah.
you don't want to see that scene at Folsom Field because Caden Salter's not purposefully making mistakes. He's trying. The leadership component has not been what they've needed, as Coach Prime has said many times.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is going to be a big moment for him because there are so many people that are going to be in the crowd that want to see the true freshman, whether Julian Lewis is ready or not. That we talked about it earlier this week. That's just how fans are going to act sometimes with the quarterback position. But I think it'll help them getting back to an afternoon game because they don't have to tweak their practice schedule this week the way they have in recent weeks where they've had to practice at night. That has made for really long days for the players and coaches. And so
Yeah.
uh, just getting back to 1:30 kick, I think is going to help as well for the Buffs.
It was really nice the last 2 years, not having to hear chants for the backup quarterback, right? I think
Yeah.
that's more, I mean, I think it's more common than not in a lot of places, because whenever the starting quarterback shows us some flaws, everybody wants to see the backup. And we obviously heard that a lot in 2022 and the years before that. But 23 and 24, nobody wanted to see the backup quarterback ever because they always wanted to see Shedeur Sanders. So this is a big one for Caden Salter. And we're going to see an old friend this week, Chase Sowell, coming back with Iowa State.
Yeah.
He's been playing well. I mean, uh, we saw some really good potential with him when he was here as a freshman. I believe, was he the same class as Jordan Tyson? I think,
Yes, he was.
yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
I mean, you think about that freshman group of receivers: Jordan Tyson, Chase Sowell. That's a pretty talented group. I think there was more guys than even those two, but Chase has had a nice career since he left Colorado. I think it was ECU he was at, and now he's at Iowa State and playing well.
Yeah, what's crazy is that both those guys, Jordan Tyson and Chase Sowell, had no other Power Four offers. Colorado
Yeah,
was the only option from the Power Four ranks for both those guys. So they were a couple nice finds by that Jarrell staff, and they've gone on to do great things. He was hurt, Sowell was early this
yeah.
season, but he's starting to get back in the mix. He's got over 200 yards receiving in the last two games, so he's kind of finding his groove there. That'll be definitely one of the tougher matchups. Going back to quarterback, Brian, is there any chance that Ryan Staub becomes a 2-minute specialist for this offense? Is there any chance?
Yes, because I think everything's on the table at that position when it
Okay.
comes to Coach Prime. I mean, um, I put it out there on Twitter last week during that game. I mean, the way that was such a disaster, those final 2 minutes of the first half, last week. I mean, throwing two interceptions in 2 minutes is pretty bad. And you look at Ryan Staub. I know it's a smaller sample size, but there's 3 times now that he's led 2-minute drive touchdowns, for the Buffs. So why not? I mean, I think everything's on the table when you're trying to get a win, right?
You would hope, yeah. It just seems like that is the sweet spot for Ryan Staub,
Yeah, and it's
and
not
it's not, yeah,
for
for
Caden
Cade.
Salter.
Yeah.
And I asked him about it after the game, Caden Salter after the game, and he kind of brushed off. He said, "Well, we led a nice drive after that first interception and until the end." I'm like, "Yes, he did until the end. It still didn't end well." And so, Ryan Staub's 2-minute drives have ended well. I would. I mean, I think if they get the ball at the end of the first half and there's less than 2 minutes left or less than 3 minutes left, uh, I would go Ryan Staub. And I would make that clear all week to the quarterbacks and say, look, if we're in that situation, we're going to Ryan Staub, because it shouldn't be a surprise to Caden
Yeah,
Salter
yeah,
on game day. But I would. I mean, I think everything's on the table. It should be on the table.
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because if Salter struggles again, I mean, it's going to get pretty loud in terms of the fan base calling for a
Yeah,
change there.
yeah, it will. And can I just throw out real quick? We were talking about Chase Sowell and Jordan Tyson. When you look at that 2022 team, they started the season. Brendan Lewis is balling out right now for Memphis. They're 6-0 and ranked. They had Brendan Lewis, Jordan Tyson, and Chase Sell. If you had those three playing then like they are right now, how would history have changed? This is total speculation. We don't need to answer that, but like,
Yeah.
could you
Well,
imagine if those three guys?
Brendan Lewis had to accept that he is a dual threat
Yes,
quarterback, which he did
yes,
not want to do at Colorado.
right,
So that was the key. I mean, there were
right,
times. Remember the first half of that Texas A&M game with Brendan Lewis? He was doing really well with his legs, and
yeah,
if he could have just been more of that type of quarterback, I think he would have had a lot more success. And then with the receivers, it was just kind of injuries that limited them because Tyson was balling out before he got hurt that
yeah,
season. But yeah, no, and those were all really nice guys to chat with. And so,
yeah,
the receivers were. We didn't get a chance to know Brendan Lewis all that intimately. He was
yeah,
kind of hands off to the media.
yeah. And he was a quiet guy, but certainly it's nice to see those guys playing well.
Yeah.
It was just something I thought of just now. Like, man, could you imagine if those three guys were playing for Colorado like they like they are right now? How would history have changed? But
Or
hey,
how would it look the last 2 years if Shador Sanders had this offensive line?
right, right,
There's
right.
a lot of things like that that you can throw out there with this football team.
Yeah, but it is nice seeing some of those former Buffs doing well, and it'll be. I mean, the Sauer family is a really good family. Everything I knew of them, so I'm glad to see Chase having some success and really good baseball player in high school, by the way. So,
Yeah, yeah,
it's nice to see him doing well. But I always say that they've got some big injuries. The Buffs, we talked about the Buffs injury report last night in the video we did, but Iowa State's got some big ones too. Their two corners are out for the year. Is this a game Kaden Salter can exploit that? Cincinnati did last week for sure.
yeah. I Yes, it can happen. Have we seen it consistently so far?
Yeah,
No.
right.
And part of it is the mechanics, Brian. It's an issue with his throwing motion to have consistency and accuracy as a quarterback.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating is you look at a game like this and like they should be able to take advantage of that, right? Because they've got the weapons on the outside. The quarterback's getting the protection that you need to be able to get the ball out there. Uh, they should, right? I mean, you should be able to run Sincere Brown down the down the sideline and just huck it up to him, or Amari Miller, Joseph Williams. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. They're obviously, Coach Prime is talking a lot about the run game lately. They like what they're doing there, but I'm curious to see if they take some deep shots because I think it's there if they can do it or
Yeah,
if
I
they
mean
do it.
there were some opportunities last week that just they didn't capitalize on.
Yeah,
Down at TCU.
yeah. And so I'm curious to see if they do because they should because I think that's there if they can. Coach Prime mentioned this week that they are very close. He said you don't need binoculars to see it because you can almost reach out and touch it. Would you agree with that?
It feels that way, but again, if you don't get a win this week and kind of start to rally a little bit, then you're going to get further away, I think, because
Yeah,
you're going to have people checking out and you're not going to have the locker room, a healthy locker room at that stage if you keep losing games. We've seen that late in seasons at Colorado before, just a couple years ago. You remember after the Stanford
yeah,
debacle,
hmm
the leadership didn't step up enough in that moment, and things kind of fell apart. Back in I mean, I don't want to go back beyond that because that frustrates people, but we've seen that before with Colorado where
yes,
it kind of snowballs on them and they just cannot get back their confidence. So they're really close, but you go 0-4 in conference play, and you're going in the bye week. Can you keep this team together?
yeah. And I don't sense that they've lost their confidence yet, but
No.
I agree with you that it's close. That's the other thing that's close. I mean, I think they're close to turning the tide. I think they're also close to really losing their confidence because this is a big one because if you lose it, not only are you 0-4 in conference, but then you've got a bye week. So you've got to sit on that for 2 more weeks before going to what I would say is probably their toughest game on the conference schedule at Utah, just because of what history has been like for them in Salt Lake City.
Yeah. No, this is a very pivotal football game for Colorado on
Yeah.
Saturday. And you mentioned last week their losing streak against Power Four teams. It's been a bad trend for Colorado. It's been a while
Mhm.
since they've beaten a Power Four team.
Yeah. And I don't know if we should call 2024 Oklahoma State a Power Four team because but when they came in here, uh, they were a checked out team, that's for sure. But I
Yeah.
think it's 1-6 in Colorado's last 7 games against Power Four teams, and that one win was against that checked out Oklahoma State team. So, um, which is crazy because that this stretch has followed what was really a phenomenal stretch for CU that included all those blowout victories, at UCF and at Arizona, at Texas Tech. I mean, they had a really sensational stretch last year, but it's been followed by these struggles, and so the Buffs have got to get back on track. There's no doubt about it.
And it's too talented of a football team
Yes.
to be going 2-5 to start the season.
Yeah.
Uh, and the run defense is getting better. The O line is playing well. They're running the football. There are a lot of things that were question marks for this team going into the season that had you told me those that were starting to get answered, you feel really good about this football team. It just has not been the consistent play out of the quarterback position, and early in the season the run defense was pretty awful. So
Yeah.
that was obviously a major issue there. Again, this is a football team that should be 4-2 right now.
Yeah, and their run defense, I don't know how much they'll be tested this week. I mean, they're Iowa State's starting running back, Carson Hansen, I think was listed as questionable for this week, and they're not a juggernaut running the ball. I mean, 151 yards a game is okay, but and Rocco's not a major running threat. He takes a lot of sacks, but he is a running threat. I mean, he's got. I'm trying to look at the stats here. He's gained 132 yards, then you lose all those sack yardage, but he's rushed for 7 touchdowns. So he can
Yeah.
certainly carry the ball. It's another, not the Haynes King type, but it's another running ability quarterback.
He's one of those quarterbacks that when he runs and picks up yards, it's usually for a really big play. Like you said, a
Yeah,
lot of touchdowns, and
yeah,
he knows when to pick his spots. And it's often those spots that really demoralize a defense because they feel like they've got things bottled up, and then there goes
yes.
back for a first down or a touchdown.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of Shador was that way, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Shador didn't have any rushing yards really because of the sacks, but when he took off, he was very capable and was a skilled runner, I think, in some ways. And so Rocco's kind of the same way. So they've definitely got to keep an eye on that. But I think should we get into predictions?
Let's do it.
All right.
You
Well,
go, you lead off this week.
I'll lead off, but we started off talking about. I mean, both of us kind of feel good about it. I think this is the week the Buffs get on track. I mean, I think it's a pivotal game. I think they, at least for now, save their season with this game this week. I think they win 30-27. I think they're going to come out fired up. I think maybe the day game helps them, but I think more than anything, I think there's a fire lit under Kaden. There's a fire lit under this defense. I think these guys come out and respond really well and win the game 30-27.
So I've got a dilemma. I already made a prediction, and then now I'm starting to feel a little bit differently. Uh, but I don't want to go back on my initial prediction. So I guess I'll explain it this way. Like I said earlier, my gut says that Colorado wins this football game, gets back on track a little bit going into that bye week. Um, we just haven't seen enough consistency out of this football team through 6 games for me to pick them in the upset. That's what my head tells me.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of at odds there. Earlier this week, I said Iowa State 31, Colorado 24. I really think it's going to be probably closer than that. And actually starting to kind of feel like this is the week that, like you said, Colorado is going to get going here. But I don't want to change my initial prediction. So I'll just stick with that. I'll go Iowa State 31, Colorado 24. How is that for straddling the fence with this prediction?
that's as well as you've done that in all the years we've been doing this. That's almost one like you put the prediction down with an asterisk next to it, meaning that Adam wanted to change pick to Colorado, but yeah, that was a nice fence straddle there.
Yeah, well, I'm just being honest. That's all I can do.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I do like the Buffs in this one. It's going to be tough, but um, I will say a few weeks ago we talked about. I know I mentioned like, look, I can't pick the Buffs to win a game against a physical football team until I see them match up. They've done well with that. The physicality has not been a problem the last few weeks, and so I feel good about them on that regard. It's just more of, do they get the solid quarterback play and can Caden avoid mistakes? And I think he does it this week. So that's where I think the difference is.
Yeah.
And look, Iowa State's got some kicking problems too, and so if it comes down to something like that, that could be an issue and maybe a difference maker as well.
Yeah, it goes beyond just the win-loss record at this point. If you start if you keep losing football games and folks aren't coming to the stadium, uh, that's revenue that this athletic department needs right now. So it's
Yeah.
such an important game on so many levels, and you can go to recruiting, you can go to keeping this locker room together. It's a huge football game, maybe one of the biggest of the Coach Prime era, just because of
Yes.
this
Mhm.
now being year three and beginning the second half of the regular season, really needing a win.
Well, and I know this stuff maybe isn't the most important, but we see it. We've talked about it. I mean, you look at the views and the attention on this program, it's gone down, as they've lost, not just, with stuff we've done, but like Bucky's mentioned it, right? I mean, we've seen Bucky on videos mention, kind of joke like, I need I need the views. My views are down. The attention's down on this program, and they don't have the superstars. And then when you start losing, the eyeballs are going to go away from you a little bit. So I think it's huge in a lot of ways. One of them is you need to get some eyeballs back. If you beat an Iowa State, that gets some eyeballs back on you going into that next game against Utah.
Yeah, and you knew with Travis and Shador moving on that there was going to be a little
Right.
bit of that.
Yep.
But yeah, if Colorado starts winning football games, they're back as a topic on First Take, and they're back kind
Yeah.
of on the national spotlight. Especially a lot of the attention seemed to get diverted to North Carolina and Bill Belichick this past off season.
Hmm.
If some of those rumors are true, and he's not going to be back there next year, maybe that helps Coach Prime kind of get back in the spotlight a little bit too, because
Yeah.
you've got these time slots and all these discussion shows, and a lot of time has been spent on Bill Belichick here the last year.
Which, by the way, for as much as that the narrative has been that this has been a zoo around here, doesn't that look like a zoo over there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I'd
no
much
press
rather
conferences.
cover this.
Yeah, yeah, I've never thought zoo is the right word, but it was like some of the press conferences were so bizarre because like the intro presser for Coach Prime, you had boosters
Yeah,
everywhere in there,
right.
and so it was a lot, a sensory overload at times.
Yeah,
But Coach Prime has been old school coaching his entire coaching career, and that's one thing that has been one of the false narratives out there.
yeah. It looks like a mess over in North Carolina.
Yeah,
It's not a mess here. This team has been, I think they've been close, and so it's gonna be interesting to see what they do this week. And is that Punchy?
it is. Hey, Punchy, come over here. Say hi to the people.
Nice to see Punchy.
She's camera shy.
What does Punchy think this week?
Who you got? No comment.
No comment. We got desperate one time and did animal predictions. So
We did. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to get to that point again. But Adam, anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a nice
Yeah,
afternoon. It sounds like it's going to be in the 70s. 1:30 kick, man. I'm pumped about that.
we get to get home on the same day the game starts. The same day
Yes.
the game starts. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's exciting.
It really is.
Well,
I'll
we'll
see
see
you
you on
down there.
Saturday. All right.
Yep.
Bye.